Hey everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how you can paint this adorable Christmas kitten step by step in acrylic on canvas. I am going to break every part of this painting down for you, and John, my husband, is the disembodied voice that you're going to be hearing on here.
Hello.
He is going to be coming to you. There it is.
That's what you were waiting for.
Yeah, I was waiting for that because I was trying to get that turned down, and then it wasn't coming. The delay was so long.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, are we even on air? So my husband, John, that voice that you just heard, he's going to make sure that when I break down these steps and explain these techniques, you are able to really see that at home. We have several cameras. They zoom in. We get better views. It can really help you. Also, to really help you, if you are not somebody who currently draws, is a traceable on the website that's free to download, and it would be good to transfer that on to the canvas. Now, I'm going to be freehanding it in and explaining the rendering process for painting, but that's not something you have to do to paint, and if it's overwhelming, I say skip that, use the traceable so you can get the techniques down. Drawing is fun, and it will come as you go, and you can always take extra drawing classes, but don't let that be the barrier to believing you're creative. Sometimes we do, don't we? If we can't draw, we don't think we're artistic, which is...
Yeah.
Those skills are not necessarily related in any way. So don't let it be a barrier to you. All right. Now I am on an 8x8 canvas today. And normally I have wishes or intentions kind of rendered out here for you guys at home. But since I'm going to do a little bit of a grisaille at the beginning, I didn't want to do that. I will say that I have a wish and intention that... especially going into the holidays, especially, just for the stress people are experiencing around the world. And as we're learning, young men are experiencing around the world, that we get lots of good mental health care, and that everyone who needs mental health care has access to it. That's super important. We certainly believe in that here. So that's our wish or intention. You'll have to imagine it here because it's invisible.
Imagine.
All right. Shall we go over the materials?
We should.
Let's go over these materials so they know what they're using.
Boop.
Boop,
There.
boop.
All the buttons.
All the buttons. Well, let me scooch. There we go. That was just a little bit scooched. Okay, so the colors, I have most of my palette out for this painting. We won't necessarily use this amount of paint on every color, but I like you to be able to see them, so I put out extra. Ultramarine blue, dioxazine purple, quinacridone magenta, cad red medium, cad yellow medium. Yellow ochre sometimes can be called yellow oxide. They're different chemically, but essentially they're the same color or hue. So you can either one is fine. Burnt sienna, phthalo green, Mars black, and this blue, which looks a lot probably to your new eye, to the other blue. This blue right here is phthalo blue. They actually are very different blues, which is why we put them both out. So we've got ultramarine over here, phthalo blue here, and I have a big ploop of titanium white in the middle. Mostly, you don't need that much white for this. I was just cleaning out a tube that had goomed up.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happened?
No. The surface today is 8x8. And the nice thing about the surface being 8x8 is that if you want to do this bigger or smaller, as long as you stay in the square, the positioning of objects will not change.
It will not.
Now, I started this originally for a 30-day painting challenge that I did. And then I come to realize, man, squares make it a lot easier for people. Plus, you can make nice arrangements with them. It helps with the placement on the wall, things that I found. All right, shall we put up a step?
Yes, of
now
course. Look, there one.
Now these steps will be time-stamped, so later when you come to the video, those will be time-stamped and you can find your place again. They also match a mini book that we write based on this video that comes out, about 14 days after the show. Because we have to write it. To write it, we have to make the video. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing, but if you're really wanting to do this and you need that extra help, that can be just the gift that keeps giving. You can't imagine how much difference it makes. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a small brush. This is a number 4 Raphael round. The filament in here is hog bristles. It doesn't have to be hog bristles, but you do want a stiff bristle for this. I have wet it and taken the extra moisture out of it. And I'm going to do kind of it's a grisaille adjacent sketch. I'm going to take a little of my Mars black and a little of my burnt sienna, sort of watered down. And I'm going to sketch out my kitten, put a few values in there, add some placements of the bulbs and a little value there. And that's going to help us get the lights and darks a little bit easier. So that's why we didn't do the wish this time. If you're using the traceable, get that in, and then using those lines, it will help you paint in the value. So that's how you do it at home. If you're using a traceable, get that on here. It's kind of why I'm delaying, just in case you're trying to paint with me live, which, by the way, you can pause me and still talk to everybody in real time. So that's a pro tip right there. Pause me, talk to everybody in real time, but paint at your own pace. Okay, so I'm looking at my little kitty here, and he comes to about the middle. His little chestiness comes right there, about the middle of the canvas. And then we have some little paws down here. And what I'm doing is I'm giving myself an idea of his placement. And I need a little bit of room up at the top for ears. So I'm going to start lightly sketching in his little facers. I'm going to give myself a nice oval. This will be a little bit like that joke I just posted on the Facebook page. It really will, actually. Sometimes things are funny because they're true. So I'm making a nice little oval. And what I'm looking to do is capture the just overall contour shape of little kitten's head, which is squishy oval. Things that you start to observe, you know, as a little artist, when you're going along, you'll begin to be like, oh, hey, things have these little shapes. I'm going to give myself a little paw down here. And then there's a little contrasting little paw. I love the little paws. It's such a kitten stance, isn't it?
It really is.
Cats just have like this little sort of precious stance that they do, and it was just fun to capture that. So sometimes I get a little black on there, and sometimes it's working a little brown. The little bounce here that I've got is to talk about the bend in the paw, right? So a lot of times with furry creatures, you don't really see the muscular details, but you'll see the shape or foreshortening details. That's going pretty well. So we've got a nice little area there. And what's nice about this is really just talk a little bit about the body that's coming off here. And of course, this is so in the dark over here, we don't have to worry about that too much in value. So that's kind of nice for us.
Now, I had adjusted the cameras for after you had some paint on there, so it's just a little bright right now.
Yeah, but they can see the lines.
Yeah, I'm gonna
see.
Just
don't worry about it.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just letting everybody know. That's why you see the camera make little iris adjustments as we go along. Sometimes I adjust it so you can see a little better. Our human eyes can see more than my cameras can see sometimes.
Now, you guys will notice that I'm very sketchy with this paint. I'm not putting a lot on there. And that is because, again, these are the structural lines that really sort of help me get Mr. Kitty Face. Put some nice big ears up, kind of like a Maine Coon is our model, or a Maine Coon mix, because, you know, got the little floofers at the end. So when we get that in, we get to set in the little face. Now, things to know about the little face is he's not facing directly to us. He's a little bit in the 3/4. So I'm going to run a little center line down very lightly to help me set that slightly off center positioning. And coming under the ear a little bit and across the skull. I'm going to make a little line to help me set the eyes. See, that's going to help me make sure that one eye isn't really high and one eye isn't really low. Again, use the traceable if this is an overwhelming portion, and then you just come in and do your burnt sienna lines off of that. And that can make a nice big difference. It really can. Going to place a little bit of a nose here. Going to rinse out and kind of repoint my fluffy brush, because sometimes these brushes get a little fluffy, and I've got to kind of come back and be like, hey, behave. I love that he has one green eye and one blue eye. Make sure that you leave a nice ample amount of room for the bridge of the nose on your kitties.
Otherwise, they get squish nosed.
They get a little squished in their nose, and you want to have a nice room for the eyes. And this is just very sketchy.
We had a cat that had like no nose.
Oh, you mean the Persian?
Yeah, it was like squished face.
Very squished face. That was a little torty Persian. Was a cutie patootie. So cute. So just sort of working that out there. And we know that we've got, you know, a bit of fur coming off here. And we'll be working some of that fur over on the sides. But this really gives us a little sense of where Mr. Kitty Face is, doesn't it? Where do we see him and where our little stripes might be coming in? The top really helps us place these ears. Cats are, interestingly enough, actually quite simple shaped. They don't have complex shapes. They're kind of tubes. A lot of tubes and circles. So once you start to see their little tubes and circles, it gets to be a little bit easier to get them in. Now, this is going to be all quite light down there, so I just need to know where that face structure is. I can also take this moment to kind of think about maybe placing some of my bulbs. And sizing them out, so I'm making a little round, just very lightly with my paint. They don't gotta be perfect. Kind of build up the top of the ornament there. One way that you can personalize this piece is if you have an ornament that is very special to your family or that you grew up with, you can add that to the painting. I know a lot of people were talking about giving this as gifts this year. So I know we won't be able to see them. You know, if whoever you're giving it to isn't in the Facebook group, you can share it in the Facebook group, because even though it's public to the group, it's not public to anything else on Facebook. So they won't be able to see unless they're in the Facebook group. And then you can share it. I'm so sorry. We get that going every year. Just adding a little bit of just some scale. We're seeing where these things are, right?
They're within cat range.
They are all within cat range. Notice how sketchy I'm being with this brush. I'm just being sketchy. So getting confident sketching with paint, and this is kind of what upped this to that 3 hoot range. It's a really good skill to have. Because obviously this is light, and I can change this as I go, and I can fluffer him up, and I can do all kinds of things, right? But just having this in, you know, it helps me again in these line areas kind of evaluate the design. Because sometimes when I'm designing, you know, especially when you design digitally, what I can promise you will happen is you get so into the tools and the toys of it. I was talking to my mom about this too, because she does some digital stuff. We are not digital art teachers. We just use the tool. I'll try to convince Honey to teach some digital classes, because Honey's actually quite good at the digital. Is that you get so excited about the tools that you sometimes forget about what it's going to be like to paint it. But this gives me a nice sense. Like, I like that arrangement of bulbs. And when I see that in there against, you know, what is, you know, a very cute and fluffy kitty, That works out pretty darn well. Just doing that. And then I'll wish from here.
That turned out really nice.
Oh, Rebecca Hoffman, thank you so much. Shannon Salinas says, I want a Maine Coon cat so bad. And I want to thank Patty Hoffman, who has come to be with us for Thanksgiving and is right now with my oldest, and has made the holiday really lovely, even though my mom is traveling and everything. It felt like, you know, we had that joyful reason to all be together. It was just a little bit better, and thank you, Patty.
Nice. It gave us the extra nudge to go out and have a little extra time together and do little extra things.
Because we might have been like work, school,
work, grind, work.
Well, our kids are going to have to be joining Irish school maybe mid-year, and so we're trying to get them caught up. And I don't know how to break to them that they're going to have to learn to speak Irish.
Yes. Which is kind of cool. I'm learning too. It's like, you know, so it's like, it's gonna be fun.
John is learning. Well, John's learning Ohm.
Well, Gaelic. I'm actually taking a Gaelic. Their Ohm is another thing that's just it's an old written language thing. So lots of things I'm learning.
So we're just getting into it.
It's so neat.
We
need a step.
Here's what it is. We're fans. We're fans. We're super fans.
We are super fans.
All right, let's call it a step.
There's the step.
I'm trying not to rush on you guys through this first part, so you have a chance to sort of get here, you know, wherever you're at. Because once you have these anchors, the rest of it sort of comes together fairly well. All right. Do we have that in?
We do.
Excellent. I'm going to decide how I want to paint in the background. And I think I'll initially start out with a nice big bright. This is a number 18 Raphael d'Artagnan. These will be available hopefully by January in the store, maybe a little bit sooner, in my new store that's opening, not my Amazon store. Though I might have these in my Amazon store. Can you mute me for a second? My head could go.
Yes, you're muted. They will be in. What you can say about most of these products is we really believe in them. So if we don't currently have them on our store, then we have links to where you can get them.
Yeah, we're trying to make them accessible.
Yeah.
Now, I chose this size brush just so that everything was big enough to paint in the areas. And this isn't a time when I have to be entirely perfect or any of that. It's not so much of a worry. I'm going to begin to come in with, say, let's do a little bit of dioxazine purple and phthalo blue, because it's always such a nice dark value, isn't it? Oh, see, and I just went and painted over part of my ornament, but that's okay. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll get into painting and then
You'll overpaint?
I'll overpaint.
Now, is that something to be super stressed about, or can we just...
Not at this stage. We're just getting values in. I'm more concerned about the bulb than anything, so not too worried.
There we go.
And I've got to get a nice dark value going here, as it is. And that's going to take a couple layers.
Now, one of the things that I see come up a lot is that the understanding of two concepts, which is one, why artistically you paint around objects, and two, why...
Well, usually I paint the whole thing first, a solid color with an acrylic ground, and then they're always like, couldn't we sketch it in first?
Right. Well, so like, yeah, this is where it kind of goes back and forth. So, in short, you leave the white space to make it easier to get color in later.
Yeah. So I have bright colors and I want things to look a certain way. Or maybe the design is complex and having these lines in will help you guys. Usually what I'm looking for is what will get you guys through.
Now, the other thing that I want to sort of bring up, and I'll anecdotally talk about, and then you take it from there, is that...
More purple on this down here. We want it to be darker.
You also have an intentional design process where you paint the background around the foreground objects to create emphasis and create as a choice to artistically bring emphasis to something.
Yes, and I'm going to come up and create a little bit of dark value into the cat because some of him is in shadow, if you'll remember. And we're just getting this in. So sometimes, you know, it's really when you're going, you're making decisions about how do I get the result that I'm looking for? How do I get the glow of the fur? How do I get the depth and the contrast of this rich scene with these glowing lights. And you just make decisions based on your goals for the finished painting. And honestly, there's usually a couple ways to accomplish a painting. And that's why I do try to kind of show some different ways. Now, what you see me doing here is I'm kind of smoothing out some of my background with my brush, you know, using a very light touch. And I'm going to come a bit into the kitty. And the reason I'll come a bit into the kitty is so that when I layer the fur over there, it will have depth into the background.
It'll go just a little bit further out.
Hmm?
I get you. I see in it.
So we're just getting this in. Just getting this dark value in around these objects. Simple, paint around. It's all good. Thank you, Heather C. I am taking a little more of my phthalo blue and Diox purple and continue here. I'm using the phthalo blue and dioxazine purple because there is actually a blue glow in the background. Let's brush into the kitty head a little bit. Notice that I'm doing that? Yes, the fur and everything will come back over. But this will absolutely help. Now, sometimes, you know, you can do a black background, and we may use black where we need to have some extreme depth.
Is this like Wayne and Garth extreme?
Yes, Wayne and Garth extreme, exactly.
Rebecca wants to know, when is the store opening for us to buy things?
I'm hoping by January.
Well, probably before then.
But
we don't know how many products will become available at what speed, when, and where, and things. So you dry, I'll explain.
Okay, you explain. I'm gonna sip my coffee and dry. How to do both.
Okay, so blah 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 store. So yes, there is a many-layered technical testing process that we did not anticipate we would be going through. So one of the things that's going to be pretty easy for us to do now that we have like all the technologies kind of working is turn on our in-house warehouse. So we're going to be turning that on. We've got a bunch of products that are going to be going out through that. Then we're going to be opening up our partner warehouse, and a bunch more products are going to be coming out of that. So, oh, look at that. We have a visitor who wants to... No? Oh, I guess I got it. Yay! See, sometimes we have people who come in here and think like, this is the place where they're going to find, like, love. And not, I mean... That's just the wrong place. This is not the crowd that comes. This is not here. So I think it's funny, but you know that's what you get. Band hammer swings. So okay, I think we're back recording, but I may have to get my cameras back.
I don't see anything. I look frozen again.
Okay, I think it says it's back. Oh, there you are. I can see.
Am I
We're back.
Again?
But the camera. So you guys are gonna have to forgive me while I get the cameras to come back here.
Whoa,
just for a second.
A lot of people went away.
I think that the
Chrissy Hulukov. I'm so sorry. I'm saying your last name wrong. This is your first live watching, and you know it's live because it's glitchy. Are you there yet?
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay. So I am going to start putting in some of my background, again, another layer of it, and get that depth going. I've got my nice background here. Let's get another of our blue and purple. And if you'll come here, you'll notice that this begins to really darken up the corner. I can even, interestingly enough, get a little bit of my cad red in there and darken it even further. So sometimes when you're trying to get depth, it's very useful to have a couple layers.
Do we need to step here?
I don't know if you did or didn't step. Okay.
Yeah, I think we stepped right
I have
before
no
we-
idea. That's
yeah.
all you. I hope so.
I'm pretty sure we stepped right before this, but what we'll do is...
The team will know.
Well, I tell you what, we'll go ahead and give everybody a step here just in case. Because I'm not sure, because we had that little blippy thing.
We had a
that little
blip?
We had a blip, so here's what we'll do is we'll give everybody a step, and I think that I'm going to hope that I'm on step 4, because I lost all my step place. So here we go. A guess of a step 4.
You can wait for the mods to tell you.
They will tell me.
They count.
And if I do it wrong, I can re-step.
It's true.
The
The mini book's always fun, so... I'm going to kind of come around the side and make sure that this is nice and deep around the side. Now, if you have very inexpensive paints, guys,
3.
and you're not getting a depth that visually looks like black to you, you may need to do 3 coats. Dry it on the second coat and then just do it again. Because sometimes inexpensive paints, how they save money on and get the cost down is they take away the pigment. That's how they accomplish that goal. But it kind of messes you up, you know, for what you're trying to do. Come around here, quite dark. Now, as I come down here, it's interesting. I'm going to get a little more into my 2 reds. See this?
Mm-hmm.
And I've given it kind of a red hue. So I've just picked up a little bit of cad red and quin magenta. And this is going to help me do that red reflection underneath some of these objects. Let's put some of this over here because there's a red reflection to do over here. And I'll just get back into my dark. Yeah, I might be a little heavier on the blue over here.
That's a good question.
So
Linda was asking if I do a painting that doesn't come out that I love, but it doesn't come out exactly the way I want it to. How long should I wait to try that painting again? Do I do it right away? Should I try a couple different paintings again? What do you suggest?
Depends on the emotional state you leave the painting in. If you leave the painting in super frustrated and not enjoying the process of painting, go find something you know you're going to love to paint and get that good feeling back and then paint it. If you leave like, oh, that was fun, it just went a different way than I expected, I'm back over here into the red and purple mixture that I had, then you can go right in. But it's really about your emotional state. Where did it leave you? Right? If it left you in a good place, you can hop right back in. But if you find yourself not in a great feeling place, then you don't really want to hop in too soon. See how this depth is coming in?
I do.
Yeah, this is a really nice way to get there. Sometimes we mistake the idea that acrylics don't do, necessarily what oils can do. But it's really just a matter of not understanding how acrylics work and how you can get there with them, just like you got there with oils. They just might need a different layering process or different blending process, but they can still get there. I'm still kind of around my ornaments. Now, one thing I can do is I can come here and just load up with phthalo blue and get a smidge, right? Everything is sort of wet of my white. And while everything is wet, I can add a little diffused glow. See how I'm doing that?
Yes.
Wet into wet paint, lightening it up in a diffused glow. And then I'll take that maybe up here again. kind of a little circular one here. It's just the start of it. You don't have to have it perfect. It's just good to have those in, those distant diffuse glows. Rinse this brush out really, 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 really well. You don't want to leave any paint in it. And we're going to call it Step. We're going to dry it before we go on and come back. We're going to start adding the bulbs and the sort of background holiday joy.
That sounds awesome. So, oh my gosh, thank you guys for the super chat, for hanging out with us, and for coming back after the little technical blurb. And man, sometimes these little pieces of equipment back here have little gremlins in them, and you have to like chase the gremlins. They leave little trails though, because every once in a while, like, you'll see the light, you'll see a screen flicker or a line will come across, and it's a little warning sign. It's like something is not right, and you need to find it soon. And now everything's good, but I saw a little flicker earlier. I didn't step. I was monologuing about technical process.
Okay.
You ready
I'm
for
just
a step?
letting you know it's a new step.
There we go. Step.
Denise asked, can you use Prussian blue for the background? You absolutely can, Denise. And then I saw Bella talking about finding these brushes. The Princeton is a brush that's internationally distributed. So maybe start with a Google search of the brush name itself under shopping, and let it find those stores and resources for you, because there's a ton of places that sell it. The Raphael Artini brush, I know you can find online at several retailers. And another good way of doing that is just going in Google and putting in the brush name, and then it'll pull up shopping resources for you, and then just find your best prices. Sometimes it's a good way to shop for art supplies, because maybe you want to do it Jerry's, maybe you don't. Maybe you find it, like, you never know when Michael's is going to carry something online that they didn't before. There's always something going on, so that's a good way of doing that no matter where you live. Alrighty, let's put in the background. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting in my bulbs. And I'm going to begin with a little bit of my Cad Red and my Cad Yellow. I'm going to make a nice orange.
As a herd of...
This is number 4. This is the number 4 again that we sketched in with. And I'm going to just come around here and go around the outside.
I'm not sure if everyone could hear the herd of mastodons running up and down the stairs.
I think it's just us. And then we're just coming here. I'm not going all the way into the inside. I'm going to get a little more yellow on my brush here. Wiping off some of the red. I want to get to a lighter yellow. So I just rinsed and wiped off. I'm just trying to have a little bit of a gradation. I may go ahead and leave that a little bit white. I'm going to go down and hit this, just initially. I'm just painting around the outside edge. If you have very inexpensive paint, you can see why sometimes leaving it white or painting it white first is necessary, because the pigment isn't going to help you there. A little more yellow, kind of leaving a little bit of that out. It's not really not too much of a concern. I'm going to go ahead also and get a little brown going into my mix. And come here to the top of the bulb with a little bit of brown. Maybe a little bit to the outside. Rinse that out. And let's get a little bit of our Cad Red and our Diox Purple, believe it or not. I might go around in circles a couple of times to round it out and improve its little shape. And this one here has a lot more of this dark color there, so it's okay that I'm going to fill that in. And I'm going to add that bulb that was right here. Just the start of it. Let's rinse that out. Take a little bit of my ultramarine and phthalo blue together. Making our little circles. I'm going to begin by getting a little bit of my cad yellow and my all yellow ochre and a smidge, interestingly enough, of my Mars black and begin the gold tops. Kind of try to center these. They don't have to be that perfect. You just want to kind of get them in. And I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of my quinacridone magenta and cad red. And add kind of a dark ball right here. Another one there. I'm going to get a little more into my red on this side. Add that little kind of implied ball to the background. Brush in a little bit of a highlight here. A little more quin and cad red. Highlight there. Let's get that in and we'll call that a step and dry it, and we'll come back and add some more details.
Add more details.
Add more details.
You just gotta, add some more details. That's all you gotta do. Get a little further down the road. So, thank you guys. I will, I'll see on the blue. I think that, one of the things about colors is you can generally interchange any color and not blow something up. It may look different. You may have to do some testing, but they were asking, can I use Prussian blue for the background?
Yes. No, I answered that one earlier.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, definitely you can use Prussian blue for this background. Work beautifully. You'd be very happy with it. For sure. So I've gotten that nice little background going. Oh, and I want to say that Cherie is here for the first time live, so I want to wave hi at Cherie. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of my yellow and a smidge of my white. I'm going to come in here to the center of this ornament. Kind of start to put in that bright yellow hot spot. Go into my little orange that I had over here. And it's really wonderful how, like, sometimes in the second layer of something, you really see it come together. It's a little darker here on these little outer edges. So I'm back into that orange, which was my cad red, and my cad yellow, like just a little darker. Can always tone it with some brown. Rinse out. Back to the yellow and a little bit of white. Giving yourself a nice big highlight there. Back into the orange. Now I'm going to get into my red here. And my red's going to be a mix of my quinacridone magenta and my cad red. I'm going to come here into this little bulb and I'm going to highlight right there with a little bit of it. And it's okay that some of it's quite dark and almost blends into the background. And if you lose that, you can always come back into your cad red and dioxazine purple mixture. So it's pretty easy to keep that value quite dark, like I'm doing the cad red dioxazine purple mixture right here. Still on this number 4 round, then back to my cad red and quinacridone magenta. And then I can even come up here to my orange. Maybe think about adding a little bit of that. See that little reflection right there with a bit of orange?
Uh-oh, I don't know. Did I step right
Katie
after we came
Lyons,
back?
thank you so much.
I don't think we stepped after we came right back. Ah, I'm going to give my step now anyway. I'm going to give my step 5.
Usually we're a little more together on our shows.
You know, we are here to teach painting. May not be the most professional of button pushers. Right. But we managed to get it turned on and come on here, which is generally...
Let's add a little bit of our red up here into this highlight. I will let the team figure all that out. The mod team figure out how it's going to go. Thank you so much, Katie. I hope you're having just a wonderful holiday. Might add just a little kind of peak of that red there. And you can see these are just getting, just getting better and better and better. Now I'm going to take a little of my phthalo blue and phthalo green together. I'm going to start to make quite a bright turquoise. I'm going to brush very lightly the left side of this bulb. Come here and do a very similar thing. Rinse that out. Now let's get a little bit of our white and a lot of our ultramarine blue. We're going to lightly kind of arc in a circle where we had sort of talked about a highlight before. Rinse out. Now at this point, my yellow, my orange and stuff should be getting fairly dry. And I can take my original background color, right? And make sure that things, have nice edges. Or are blended in really well, like right down here, blended in really well. See how this continues to add the depth to it?
Yeah, that looks really cool.
Maybe a little bit of the red in there. Just bring that around. Rinse out very, very well. Now I'm going to take my cad red over to my cad yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and get a little of my burnt sienna and even perhaps a bit of my Mars black into here. Create kind of a nice orangey shadow. And come to the top of this bulb. And I'm just brushing this lightly, feathering it out. Adding a little bit of a black shadow right under where the bulb will be. Always works pretty well. Can add some black reflections or shadows in little kind of like little stripes so that I can have highlights. Rinsed out, and I'm getting a little of my white and yellow again. Just kind of radially brushing out a little bit of that highlight. See how that starts to glow? Let me get back into my orange, brown, black. I got a little white in my brush there. Little orange, little brown, little black. Maybe wipe off and get a little black on my brush. Let's come in here and add a little bit of a shadow. And then again, some of those dark reflections. I can even put those kind of a whole bunch of different places, you know. Start to add them to the other tops. Just a little touch here and there. Rinse out. This is probably pretty dry, so back into that yellow white. Maybe a little more white into that. Looking pretty bright there on those. Now I'm going to get a lot more cad red and a little bit of quinacridone. Shape the left side of this little ornament just a bit. Just a bit brighter. A little bit on there. Get a little bit of my bright orange. Got it right there. And then a lot of white and blue. And this is the turquoise. This is from where I did the phthalo blue and the phthalo green and added some whites. This is that bright turquoise. Add a couple of those little pops. Maybe a little more turquoise than that. A little more turquoise. Right into there. Okay, so let's dry this and we come back. We're going to get the next layer on.
Okay, so this time, gotta remember, push the step button after this. I've never remembered. While I am remembering to push the button, if you guys could remember to push the button below, there's these like the subscribe button, and if you really like us, the little bell button, you go ding ding ding. It makes you get all the videos. What it does, and then there's the thumbs up button. That's always really good. You know, you should probably avoid the thumbs down button. Don't like that one so much. And then look, I can remember to push this button. Step 6. We all took time to push some buttons.
Let's all take some time.
All take some time to push the button.
All right, so I'm going to come over here. I've got a number 4 Simply Simmons round. By the way, if you're having trouble finding the Artany brush, Simply Simmons makes a hog bristle brush that is a very good comparison to this.
There are many brushes.
There are many brushes. I like what I pick, but there are many brushes. I'm going to add a little more of my cad yellow to that black and yellow ochre mixture. I'm going to be trying to make my gold highlights here. So I'll start with this. Come along the top and just kind of pop a couple places at the top of this. Little vertical. A little bit right there. Catching the tops of that. Now I'm going to take some of my cad red and quin magenta together, and I'm going to get some white involved, and it's going to make kind of a interesting pink. And using little rough brush strokes, kind of almost like X's, I'm going to come and make a little soft diffused focus highlight. Right there. Maybe again right there. And then actually up there. Rinsing that out. I'm going to come in, and this particular white can have a touch of yellow in it. That's okay, but you want it to be fairly white. I'm going to make a bright, bright highlight in the centers. Using little curved strokes, going circularly around. Then I can come and add a bit of this white to my yellow, my gold mixture, which was the cad yellow, the yellow ochre, and the Mars black. And I'm going to make kind of like that creamy white version, and we're going to come here and tap up some bright highlight. See how we hit that bright highlight? It's just a touch. Almost like a little dash and drop, and Less is more. You definitely want see, because the tops of ornaments are sometimes bumpy or they're very rounded, and so it's interesting to see how a little bit of an implied string there. A little bit of implied strings. Just a little bit there. And then we can come in with some white that has just a bit of blue tint to it. And hit those little ornaments with a bit of a hot spot reflection. One in the center that could be like a little sort of glow. And I'm going to curl out this one. So that has a bit of that light to it. So there we go. We're doing really good. Then we've just got a couple little ones I want to pop on the ornaments inside. So I can take this white over here. It's okay if it's tinted with a little bit of pink, but we want it to be fairly light. Hit that one. I think even though I didn't originally, I'm going to hit some in there. And just a bit there. All right. There we go.
That's pretty good. Do we need to do a step, or are we still going?
We need to do a step, but I got to straighten my
string.
It looked a little curved, and I didn't want it to be curved. So I'm just taking my blue background. Kind of straightening it a bit. I'll do that sometimes. I'll be like, oh, I don't like the way that angled or whatever, because I'm painting on the turntable.
Right.
And if that's true, then sometimes I'll come paint a thing out and then put it in. I'll probably put it in later with a little bit of like a ruler or something so the string's a little straighter. Okay, let's dry this.
Right.
And then we'll go on to the next part of it.
Okay. Yeah, just make sure you thoroughly dry. That way, when you get to the next layer, it doesn't pick up any of the colors underneath it. You know, kind of does that thing. I'm going to remember, come over here, so that after we dry, I can push another step. Because that's what I got to do. Make sure I push the steps. Because you guys are here for the mini books, which are available sometime afterwards. You go to our website, theartsherpa.com. And the easiest way, I think, to find them is if you click on the calendar and then go to one of the project pages, then you can find all the stuff.
All the stuff.
But here, I'm going to give you a step.
Step 7, we're going to start putting in this little branch and greenery and other little elements of sort of diffused ornaments and lights and things that are there. And then when we get through that, we get to get into our cat. And the reason we did that, with the exception of this ornament, the cat's in front of most of the background or on top of. So it helps to do him more towards the end of the painting. That way his fur layers over everything in a better way. And I want to thank Anne Marie so much, and Suzanne Mills, And thank you guys for supporting these tutorials as I throw my brushes around. I'm going to keep using this number 4 because it's fine. I'm going to grab my burnt sienna and my phthalo green together initially to start, just to give us a nice dark place to begin. And into the background, even though it's very dark, I'm going to start adding this greenery. All right, a little bit of green and brown together. The reason I do this is that when I paint wet into it, if it starts out as a dark green, then the highlights look really amazing. Over here, I'm going to make sure that I've got some coming up. Just very loosely. Quite dark. Now I can come in and get a little bit of my cad yellow into that. And very lightly brush just the first thought of a highlight. And I'm going to do this where I kind of fan out and do rough little brush strokes that are going to imply some type of conifer pine needle situation. See how we're doing that? We're implying it. It looks pretty good. Well, that's having a bit of a dry. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little of my cad red and my quin magenta. And I'm going to tuck up here. I'm going to begin to imply. Notice I'm going between the little conifer needles. A bit of a candle. Maybe a little more red here. Okay, I'll apply a little bit of there. You can go ahead and get some orange. And I'm going to come up here. Add a little orange. It's very loose. I want to diffuse it there because that's going to be kind of an implied flame. Couple right there. Couple little orange spots there. Just the beginnings of these sort of thought about areas. And then rinse that out. I want to take a little bit of my black and green here. And I'm going to deepen this one corner. And what you'll notice is that compared to everything else, this will feel darker. And that's going to help the depth that I'm going to come underneath. So it was the black and green this time, kind of glazing over it. Creating that depth. So I want to dry this, and when John gets back, we'll dry this and add some more layers. All right, Jerry Waxman says a GF is a small. Okay, so lots of talk. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss any like questions. I thank you so much, Suzanne Mills. All right, so let's talk about this. I'm just waiting for John to get back. I think he's checking on the kids. The kids, again, are in online school, and we're trying to get them ready for Irish school, which is going to be kind of an involved circumstance for them. And so John's running up and checking on them. But as soon as he gets back, we're going to dry this. And
I am here. So go ahead and dry that. Sorry, I wasn't aware we were already ready for the drying step place thing that I have to do to be the muty guy when I push the buttons, because she can't run over here and do that while technical jargon. So thank you for being here. Oh, look, she's back.
Yay!
Much briefer than I had expected.
Step.
You're ready to step. I will step it.
Step it. Step.
It doesn't seem to have come up. Let's try that again.
There it is.
There it is.
All right. Now this time I'm going to come over into my earlier mixture, but I'm going to go a little more phthalo green, very little of the burnt sienna and green and cad yellow. And I might even add a smidge, just a smidge, beginning to talk about it, of the white. Okay, so we're just coming here and creating some of those little highlights. Maybe a little more yellow into it. And what we want to do is capture some areas where the green is really highlighted. See how we're really highlighting that green?
I see the highlighted green.
Maybe a little more yellow. Just picking up just a little bit of those highlights. Just catching those little highlights. And we want those to be sort of rough and short and imply conifers. I'm reaching out, I'm rinsing out. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little more of my yellow, just a smidge of the orange in it. It's still yellow, but it's just kind of like a yellow orange. Come inside that, what will be kind of an implied candle flame. Yeah. Maybe here too. I think I'm going to come inside those. I think that actually will be good and helpful. Maybe brush around that, kind of lighten that up too. And rinse that out. Wipe my brush off, and I'm going to get a little more of my cad red. And pick up a little bit of the highlight on that one piece there. Maybe a couple there. Let's get some white. Kind of highlight in that little area. And just a little bit right here. And maybe right there a bit. Rinse that out. These are just little touches that give reflections or glows. It's what helps the everything seem like it's super alive. Now another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my cad red and my quin magenta. And I'm going to come underneath here and I'm going to make little horizontal strokes that are going to imply a reflection of the red into what is a dark and maybe shiny floor. I can go more into the red even a little. But we just want to feel that reflection there. A little more quin. And one of the things that you can do is if you come across, sometimes with horizontal, if you come back with vertical, it creates also another sense of reflection. So that's always sort of an interesting thing to have going on. Maybe a little more of the yellow into the earlier mix of phthalo green and the burnt sienna and cad yellow and white. Just a little more. We want to just lighten it just a touch. Right here, like around that candle. See how we're doing? Just a little bit where there would be glow. That's it. We need to dry it because we're going to be really working our cat now, but this is where we're at. Is this not gorgeous?
That looks super cool.
It's really pretty. It's a weird way of getting there, but it is really pretty
So
and
pretty.
I think worth doing.
All right, you're going to dry it?
I'm going to dry it. And can you eat my coffee?
I can, as soon as we're done drying. So I'm not good at multitasking. As you guys can see, you got to do one thing at a time in order. Otherwise, I will forget what I was doing at the beginning of all of that. So, right. We'll go ahead and let her dry this, and then I'll give you a step. Because I have to remember to push the buttons, and then I'll go microwave the coffee. Maybe I'll microwave mine too. Let me see how cold it is. Oh wow, that's very cold. Surprisingly cold, like upsettingly. So, I don't know if you could hear it. It like jumped away from my face. It was so cold. So, yeah, we'll go do that next. Man, she's taking a lot longer to dry than I thought. Oh, there she is. Okay, so now I can step.
Mm-hmm.
Do, do, do.
So in the next thing, there's a lot of ways we can break this down. You can do kind of an undervalue study of the cat, getting kind of like the rough lights and darks and hues in there. You can come in and focus on the key features of the face, like the eyes and nose and mouth, and then build up those looser areas. One of the things that we're going to pay really attention to is the way that we create the backlighting and the glow in the fur. And that's going to be a lot of fun. That won't just apply here. That will apply anytime that you have some really wonderful glow lighting around fur. The way that the ambient color will reflect and backlight it will be wonderful. And then we'll be finishing out with some reflections, which again will make this floor seem kind of like polished something. You know, it could be polished marble or just some nice rich floor. It could even probably be a polished wood. You know, but it's quite dark, so that's really up to us in our imagination, you know, trying to get it there. The big thing is trying to get this ambient area. You feel like the kitten is in some type of holiday like decoration area. And so we've set that scene, and I'm just literally waiting for John to get my coffee. And everyone's reminding you guys that the like and subscribe and sharing is very nice, and we do appreciate it. I haven't really shouted it out this much video because I've been watching a lot of videos on Ireland, and I swear, and also on permaculture and guinea pigs and wild roaming guinea pigs and all these things. And every single creator is at the beginning, like, you're just 2 seconds in the video, and they're like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm like, YouTubing.
I do. They can't hear me.
It's just so much YouTubery.
I do like the Irish cursing. If you don't subscribe, may you get a paper cut between your fingers. You know,
I'm not gonna curse anyone.
I just think it's cute.
So I think for me, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in and sort of set the eyes and nose and then work the fur. I think that's what I'm going to want to do. And I'm going to want to do detail brushes to do that. Now here I've got a #1 monogram liner in a ruby satin, and then I've got the Princeton Select #1 monogram liner. So, you know, and if you guys like know where you guys like to buy these brushes, I don't mind you like shouting that out because sometimes you guys have trouble finding the products. So if you know where you like to buy them or where there's a good deal, or you're like, hey, I'm in Canada and King's Framing and Art has a really good deal going on. There's another really good art store in Canada that I know, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. You know, or I'm in Jackson's in the UK, or I really like the sale going on at Michael's here in the US. So whatever you have, just like shout that out. I think I'm going to do this one, just because it's a little easier to find. And I'm going to go ahead and get into my black. I'm going to grab some water and thin my black a little bit. And I'm going to start kind of working out this sketch based on that. And I'm going to sketch in a little bit on the shape of my eye. I am doing the left one first. And the reason that I like to do the left first is that it's easier for me to shape the right eye than the left eye. So that kind of lets me get that going.
That actually has quite long little filaments on it.
This does have nice long little filaments, and they're really under my control, so I can really shape things and make adjustments at this stage. So what I'm trying to do is make sure my eye is kind of curving up. I've got nice curving of the eye going upwards. And good placement of the eye inside the socket. And I'm going to kind of bring the dark down a little bit because there's a nice bit of shadow on the eye, and then pull the pupil down, right? So what I've got to do here is just make sure that what I do over here somehow matches and goes with what's on my left-hand side. And that is sometimes, you know, the big thing that you're trying to do is get that matchy-matchy. Now, one thing that will also help me is if I kind of pull down the little nose area that I have. Now I'm going to want to pull. It's not quite on the straight forward, so it's helpful to pull the nose in now on the 3/4. Not far under. When you do a young animal, so young animals, young children, young people, the features, everything tends to be like shorter together. And so that's what I'm trying to make sure that I do is I tend to overly lengthen sometimes, and that is problematic in that it will make the animal look older. So if you want a youth-like animal, shorter is better.
Someone made a joke that it's a house panther, and I was like, I just my brain got stuck on thinking about the Pink Panther beat with, like, you know, a house rhythm behind it or something, and I was like, house panther, yeah, that's good music. But I think they were talking about, like, you know, the cat is the
It is a little house panther.
domain of the house is its area. It's like ferocious in the house, but it's raining outside, and it's like, what are you, crazy?
Now I'm going to tip my canvas up so I can make sure that I've got good placement. It's going to be super important for me to do is making sure that I've got good placement, and tipping my canvas up so I can see it better will help me do that. All right, so I'm trying to make sure that I've got good positioning on my pupils going forward, that they have good alignment and placement. I can cover a lot with fur. There's a lot of layers going in here, so getting them in now really helps me. All right, let's call this a step because that initial sort of laying in phase can be kind of, he looks very serious right now. He's got not such a youthful glow, but he will have a youthful glow at the end.
Has that sort of
I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my phthalo green together. Again, still with this #1 monogram liner. And I'm going to come here, and I may have to, just so that I see well, put on my vision enhancers. Because sometimes, you know, at this stage of life, these things get a little blurry. And we're going to start putting in the green over here. And I do want to start it out quite dark. And then I'm going to work, look, it's just a black eye. I'm going to work over here and get maybe a little bit of my phthalo blue and some burnt sienna to get the dark blue here. And that looks very nice. So it'll be quite dark on your surface. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my cad yellow and my phthalo green, which is a much brighter color. And I'm going to come under his little eye and begin to put that little highlight in. And I can always repoint it out. So sometimes it's more important I get the round of the eye more than anything else. I can get back into my dark green, no problem. And we'll start, I think turquoise is good here too. So I'm going to make a little turquoise, which is my phthalo blue and phthalo green, and a little white. And I will come back into my pupil a bit, trying to set that beginning of a highlight. Now, I don't want a new step, John, but I'm going to dry this so that I can layer up the lighter colors.
That makes sense.
Okay?
Okay.
So don't want a new step yet.
So no stepping. We're just going to wait. It'll be okay. Man, it's so nice to see everybody out here. We got over 300 people. That's so nice. Like to see everybody out there. Like, we are Sherpa. Woo!
We are Sherpa. Woo! All right, back into the still same step.
Do a little dance, paint a little painting. Be
Have
Sherpa
fun
today.
tonight. All right, so I'm getting a very light green using my cad yellow and my phthalo green. I want very bright. And sometimes when I have a small area, I will tap the brush up and down to kind of control how the paint offloads for it. Maybe the bright green here. Really bright. Really bright. If I need to, I can always get a little bit of my white into it. Let that have a bit of a sit there for a second. Come over and really brighten up the blue here. So I'm working a very light value. I want it to be a very, very light value. Then I can get into my phthalo blue. Kind of blending that in. Just bright. A little bit of our dark now. Kind of putting that pupil back in. I think maybe a little more aqua around here. See how we're just wanting to create that sort of glow around it? Getting a little bit of the green here. Kind of working the little dark lining around the eyes. Once we have this in, we can paint with like fur techniques around it pretty easily. But you want to make sure that you've got that set in the head well. Right, like if I were to come here, I know I would have, I just took some yellow ochre to sort of trim out that angle. Just make sure that I've got the right positioning there. Okay. Now let's call this a step. When we come back, we're going to work on the nose a little bit and hit the highlights on the eyes, and then it's going to all be like, oh, I can really see that. It'll be fun.
There you go.
All right. Now, the nose, I'm going to do a little bit of Cad Red, a little bit of quinacridone magenta, and my yellow oxide. And come here and put in that dark value. All right. Then I can get a little more yellow oxide and a little white. Kind of highlight the front of that. Little brown and black together. Kind of a little dark outline on the nose. Now, when I come back, right, later, I'm going to be putting in fur. So I'm taking a little yellow oxide and white. Kind of trimming that in and making sure that's at the right angle. Just want to make sure things are at the right angle. A lot more white into my yellow ochre and pink mix.
This is the quiet, detailed part.
It is the quiet detail part, but I just want to get that little highlight right there. A little bit of highlight right there. Maybe a little more of my yellow ochre into the Cad Red quinacridone mix. Catch a little highlight. Kind of coming out on the nose bit. A little bit on the outer area. Now on the eyes, I'm going to take a little bit of my white and my ultramarine blue. It's actually going to go really fast from when we have the eyes and nose in. It's going to be really strange how fast it does come in. Right, just putting that in right there. Come back into the nose. I'm going to make a very light white pink. Just barely there. I think I need to thicken that nose out. Let me. And creating that nice shading. I'm going to get some white. Tap it into the highlight on the eye. Crazy looking right now, but in excellent position. Whew.
Looking good.
Didn't even get to drink my heated coffee.
I'll reheat you here in a second.
All right, let's give it a step, because when the fur goes in, he's going to stop looking crazy and like a Spanx and start looking like a kitten. Fingers crossed. All right. So I'm going to get back into that number 4 round because I really like a hog bristle brush for fur. It's just kind of a nice brush for that. And my basic fur, I think I'm going to take is a little bit of my yellow ochre, some of my cad orange, and then sometimes with my burnt siennas. Really, we're going to be on the fur, right? And then we can add white when we want to lighten it up. So let's first go through and start putting in some highlights and shaping in on the light part of the fur. So this isn't totally white, but it's pretty light. It kind of comes down into a little point under him. I can always get even like a little yellow in there. Just that first kind of run of fur on here. We know we've got a nice light above the eye. Just kind of getting those highlight colors in, you know? Gonna very lightly kind of pull that off the face, starting to imply kind of the little furriness. I'm gonna take out that dark line. fairly wholeheartedly. Might even grab some of this orange here. A little more yellow ochre. A little yellow ochre. And where we come to the edges, just be really light and see how I'm kind of creating a little fur out there? By flicking those little edges out. Just a little bit, see? Just flicking them out a little bit. Just got to get some basic color on him as we go. That little yellow ochre kind of comes down a bit. We will be playing with a lot of these colors once we start putting in the tabby. But we've just got to get some paint coming down. Does some paint coming down. Not our finished final colors by any means, just the beginnings of it. Took a little brown and a little orange. A little bit of white and my yellow ochre, just again, making sure I'm lightening under that chin. Again, we're just putting some base color down. Right now he looks a little more like an orange tabby, but we're going to take him into the other range. I just got to get him out of the white. A little more brown there. A little black. Because I know I'm going to be bringing that into some shadow. And I want the paw to feel like it's coming out of shadow. And I know that I'm going to put some blue glow on the paw. I've just got to get the paint on. Grab some little black. A little dark value here, just so I can keep finding my paws again. But we've got the beginning on it. Again, he's looking a little sphinxy, but there we are.
I think it's looking pretty cool. Just a little dry. I like the multicolored eyes and the highlights. It's looking pretty slick. Coming together. as the cat fur. This is the really good part where we start putting the layers of the cat fur in there, and the cat comes to be in full fur.
All right, new step.
New step.
We're gonna get there. Do not worry. All the way there. Okay. But not during this step because I'm superstitious. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my titanium white. And I'm still on my number 4 brush. And I'm going to come inside our little ears here. And paint the inside kind of with that blue cast. Come over here, and again the inside. With that blue cast. I'm going to pull a little bit more of my white on here so that I can have some values where I have some darker blue and some lighter blue. It's going to be important. I'm going to come here and I'm going to add top of the nose a little bit of this blue and white. And kind of come over to the right. Maybe a little more white here. See how we go. A little bit there. A little bit on the far side. A little bit up on the head. A little bit coming from the fur in the front up into the ear. And a little bit off the top of the halo of the ear. You can see we're bringing a little bit of those blue hairs back around the head. And coming off the side here, I really want to kind of exaggerate that. A little bit of water on the brush, just making sure it comes off. Take a little brown, burnt sienna into my phthalo blue. Kind of creates this little gray-brown area. And I can talk about this little dark area of fur. And coming off the paw down here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to come off over here and add a little bit there. Add a little bit here. Because we're going to have that reflection, aren't we? So that's the burnt sienna and a little bit of the phthalo blue with some white. curving the fur over. Kind of working this outer edge of it. Now I can get a little more white into that mix. Highlight some of the front of the paw. On the side. Very gently off the side with that white highlight. And come back over here. Back up here. Make sure that that's nice and dark so I can create a highlight in there. Okay, let's call this very strange step a step. All right, we're just at the beginning of everything. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my black and my brown together, and I'm going to make some of my dark stripe color, still my number 4. This is the brown and the black. Come down between those two paws and sort of separate them up.
We didn't just step there, did we?
We're supposed to. I said step.
I don't think I stepped.
Okay. It's just not your day, man.
It's not my day. I'm going to step here. So we're going to step here.
Okay. Well, I think, yeah, because we weren't going to stop on step 13, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's why I was like, you described some stuff, but we didn't say step. You just.
I did. I think I did.
Maybe you did. Maybe I was just thinking. See, today's not been my button day. I'm
Maybe
just not
I
a
didn't.
day for buttons.
I'm going to bring this up over here, and I'm just adding a bit of that implied stripe. This is almost like an underpainting, guys. So really what we're doing is we're just finding the cat. Sounds like the touch game is going.
It does.
It sounds like they've started another version of the touch game, which they're not allowed to play, which is basically tag in the house. Gonna bring this here and kind of come around. Little short strokes. Kind of bringing those little tabbies in. A little bit of those. we got those going here. And then I definitely want to have off the side of that eye and kind of like down. You see that lovely going. A little bit inside that ear. And coming up on like a little V. That little tabby. But right there. A little bit of water sometimes I have to get in there because it'll get too dry. All right. A little bit right there. Okay. So getting those patterns in kind of helps us. Then we can tweak all around that, but we just want to know where that basic is. Let's call this a step. It's a step. Yay! Do we have enough steps for today?
I think I can add more steps now.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow ochre and some of my cad yellow and titanium white. I'm going to bring some of that around. I may have to get into a smaller like little brush. We'll see. Bring some here. A little more yellow ochre. And then get into my burnt sienna. And I might bring my burnt sienna over to my orange. I'm going to kind of soften that little spot on the nose. Come up a little bit on the nose. Talk a little bit about that stripe coming up. Little bit under that eye. Definitely some of the orange right here. Maybe even more orange. Just bringing some of that orange fur, that darker orange fur down here. Deepening that up. More yellow into it. He's a bit of a paint, isn't he?
Looking pretty good.
I don't know that he's found his moment yet, but he's gonna get here. It's like that again. It's like that deer. Adding a little bit of highlight right here to the top of the paw. Coming through here. Are you okay, babe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just kind of pulling in those layers. He's a multi-layered feline. And then come get a little bit of my brown and black on there. Brown and black on there. Connect those little stripes. Now I'm going to have to get down into a smaller, more controlled brush to work some of this out. So let's call it, can we call it a step or do we need to stay in the step? Okay, we'll call it a step. All right. I'm going to get into my number 4 round. And take my yellow and add it kind of into my orange a little more. There's brown in there. And I'm going to use the point of my brush to sort of shape the ear a little more. Come around. I can always get a little white into it. Catching a little bit of that highlight. A little bit of that highlight. Coming around that edge and sort of piecing out fur. A little more orange. You get some of my white and yellow ochre. Come under that eye a bit. Making a very light hue. And then bringing that into this area.
Getting a brush directionality.
Getting that fur directionality. See how we're kind of creating the shape of him in that way? Just making sure that I've got enough water in the paint for it to, leave the brush. Because sometimes when you've been painting a really long time, like we have, the paint starts to dry. A little yellow, ochre, and brown here. And get a nice, like, little in-between fur, in between the stripes. A little burnt sienna and gray. A little brown over to the orange. Work those little spots. Adding those up there, getting his little stripes together. Yellow ochre and white and cad yellow. Little upward strokes to kind of help inform fur. Just making sure my ears are balanced. A little bit of our light beige color from the yellow ochre in the... Let's highlight inside that part of the ear. A little more yellow ochre. Work that over into my orange. Brush that up into the ear. Up over the nose, and then I'm going to come in and I will definitely highlight under the eye. Get back into my blue. And white. And let's get a very light value of blue and white. kind of also going inside the ears. Up here at the tips. So very light value of blue and white. A little bit out over towards the left. And just allow the brush to like kind of come open. Just a little bit with that blue and white. And we're just letting it do. A little bit right there in the chest. I just need a little more water in it. Just the number 4 round Simply Simmons. Just a little bit of the light blue might even come down here. It's fun how you can play with the color of the fur to create the lighting of the environment. Kind of bringing that down into that stripe. Again, if you want to like tone your blue, right, you get your brown and blue together. And that creates your blue gray. And then you lighten it from there. A little bit right there, blue and white. Got a little pink in there, so I just worked that out of the way. Wasn't the color I was going for. Sometimes it'll happen to you. They'll rinse out. Everybody holding on okay? Yeah. It's a lot of layers. Just continue to highlight out here. Down his little paws. Right there. Darker blue right here. Get into my brown black mix to make kind of like a dark little muted gray. Rinsey rinse. Rinsey rinse.
Just get it rinsed out.
Huh?
Just rinsing it out.
Just rinsing it out. Getting a little bit of my yellow ochre and white. Now we've got to lighten up and kind of work this little fur a bit. So first, I'm going to take a little brown and black together. Kind of improve those little stripies. A little bit right there, kind of deepening those. Maybe even a little more rust into that one. Okay, so I've got my cad yellow and my cad red, and they make orange. And I can mix them into the browns to create kind of diminished versions of that. Yeah, over the top of the paw. Yellow ochre if I want to kind of lighten it up, or yellow. And get a little white involved. Mix that over into my yellow ochre and white mix. Just bring this on in through the fur. Not everywhere, just little highlights of some fur. That's the key. think I want it to be a little more gray than that. Now I'm going to take a little of my black and maybe my blue. I'm going to darken this area over here. So it is absolutely in deep shadow. Burnt sienna and phthalo blue. Lighten it with white. Just pulling those around here and there. I can pull some turquoise into it. That's always a bit surprising. A little bit up into here. See, the color surprises are also pretty wonderful. I went a little more turquoise, right? Pull that into a little bit of that fur there. Maybe a little here. Very light cream fur mix. And that lightest blue mix. I'm gonna get a little water in it. This will be on the most outer edge. Like a little bit there on the paw. I've gotten a little of the turquoise into it. Little highlights in the ears. A little bit around the sometimes just like extra long, weird little surprising furs are nice, I think. Just to give a little bit of that extra zhuzh. Might even come with a little bit of it up here. No, I'm just being playful. Okay, let me see what I think. If I like it or don't like it. I'm getting there. I'm going to get a little more into my orange.
It's looking pretty cool.
It's looking pretty cool. I'm going to come back into my orange a little bit with yellow. Highlight that a little bit. Sometimes it's nice to highlight things. Kind of rounding him out. I like him.
I think it looks fantastic.
I am pretty happy with him, just generally. I'm just happy generally with him. He's great. I'm happy with him, guys. Are you happy with him? Crystal would like me to know that she shares everything she can about 25 times.
Yeah.
Thank you. It takes that nowadays. Okay, so I'm going to grab my number 1 monogram liner. If you want to, you can always piece out little detail furs with a brush like this. They're kind of a nice way to talk about little guard furs. But I think I'm just ready to give it a sign. We worked pretty hard on this one today. This is sort of a quintessential one, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a really nice little kitty one.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of 3 hoot cats, but when we do, we hoot hard. I mean, you hooted hard here. If you're wondering how hard did I hoot, you hooted really hard. You hooted so hard. And you got a nice sense of the way backlighting and ambient color can impact fur and how you can paint those different reflections. And honestly, we covered a lot of different colors in a very multicolored animal, which is wonderful. I like to think that he's a rescue. So this is a kitten who's just found his forever home for Christmas. So if that's your kitten, say so in the comments. I really love these paintings. I really love this holiday collection. I hope you guys are loving it too. The next painting is much chiller. We got a Hanukkah menorah painting coming up. So we really support our friend. We support the Jewish community and we support our friends in the Jewish community. And we want to make sure that every artist in our community feels seen and represented. And maybe you have somebody in your life that you want to give this to, or maybe this is a holiday you're celebrating this year, wherever it is, that is coming up and it's going to be a gorgeous painting. And then this weekend, we are doing the ornament, which is significantly easier than this.
Yes, it is significantly.
Looks harder, But it's actually easier. This is probably one of the harder ones for this holiday season, but I think he was completely worth doing. Just a lot of fun. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other, and I want to see you and an easel really soon. Bye-bye.